Welcome to From Click to Client, where we transform a confusing message into a clear, compelling story that sells. I'm your host, Chris Jones, StoryBrand marketing expert. I'm here to help you attract more dream clients with the power of story. Thank you for having me, Emily.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm your number one fan because I love the psychology behind what you do. Anyone who has this, I don't know, anyone with psychology, I feel like gets in my head and kind of trips me out. And I think that's what fascinates me about you is that you bring so much psychology into branding.
Yeah, it's a big part of it. I mean, so many decisions that we make are actually not made consciously, they're made unconsciously. So it's really important when you're doing your branding or you're running your business that you really understand the psychology of the people that you're working with and that you're serving.
Now, take me back. How did you get into this? Like, did you study psychology? How did graphic design, psychology, how did this merge?
Well, I have been doing design and branding and all things marketing for about 20 years. But I feel like if I were to go back and get another round at college, I would definitely major in psychology. That aspect of it really fascinates me. And I've just always been into like brain science and like biohacking and things like that, like outside of my work life. And so it makes sense that I've woven the two together.
This past year, I've had the opportunity to hear from a lot of your clients who are singing your praises about what you've done for them, whether it's their website, whether it's branding, just overall the strategy of it. And there's that so much psychology. And it seems like everyone that I've worked with is so pleased because you're able to take it past just creating a logo, take it past just picking some colors that you think might appeal to that niche or that audience. Where did that come from?
So, like I said, I did a lot of years as a graphic designer and making things really beautiful. But eventually I started to really recognize the power of copywriting. And, design and copywriting go hand in hand. So you can't have beautiful design and mediocre copy, and you can't have great copy and mediocre design. So I eventually really learned like how to create a message that really resonates. And what I understood, or what I came to really learn, is that a lot of psychology is really about story, and how story, as humans, we are just wired for story in so many ways. So there's really some powerful tools to weave story into your brand and into your messaging. And I guess it was 2017, I got certified as a StoryBrand guide and started to really, and yes, it's about story, but it's also very much about psychology, right? They work together. And it's about like kind of tapping into that survival part of our brain, that amygdala in the back, that wires us for like surviving and thriving. And this is how kind of we've evolved as humans. We're constantly scanning our environment to figure out, how am I going to survive? How am I going to thrive? Whether it's through relationships or making money or feeling good. Like, we're constantly wired for that. We're also really wired for connection. And story just touches on all of those components. So when you start to really understand the architecture of a story, whether it's a book that you're reading or a movie that you go to or even a website that you visit, if it's done well, they all have those same fundamental components of story, and they all tap into that part of our brain that is trying to survive and thrive. And so that's kind of how it all came to be. And then after becoming a StoryBrand certified guide, my website design business just blew up because the websites became so much more effective. And fundamentally, we're really connecting. So my clients I was creating websites for my clients that were really deeply connecting and deeply resonating with their clients, allowing them to grow and thrive, and creating a better connection.
That is absolutely fascinating. For someone that's not familiar with StoryBrand or what it means to be a StoryBrand guide, what is that?
StoryBrand is, well, there's a book that Donald Miller wrote years ago, back in, gosh, I think it was 2017. I became a guide before the book even came out. But Donald Miller wrote this brilliant book called Building a Story Brand, and it just really broke down the components of story, but from a business owner's perspective and from a marketing perspective, because for a lot of business owners, marketing is just this mysterious black box of like, where do I begin? What do I do? And so it empowered business owners to really understand what story is and how to craft a story for their own business that allows them to attract more clients. So yeah, StoryBrand was kind of the beginning of that. And a lot of StoryBrand guides are specifically just writers, but I found as a designer, it really combining those two things, both like really high-end design and really like story-driven copy, was the kind of the 1-2 punch that was missing on most websites on the internet. So combining those has been incredibly powerful for my clients.
So if you were to go on, I don't know, your average Joe Schmo's website, and you're going to look at that through the StoryBrand guide eyes that you have, what are the top things that you look for immediately?
Well, I'll start by sharing like what most people get wrong, because once you become aware of this, then you'll know how to fix it. So often what business owners do or companies do, and it doesn't matter if you're selling a widget or selling a service or you're a large company or a small company, story works for all of it. So what happens a lot is business owners make themselves the hero of their own story. And that can look like just talking a lot about yourself, talking a lot about what you do. And I totally understand why this happens. Like, it's like, okay, this is my website. What am I going to fill it up with? And you know you and you know your work. And so you kind of just start writing about yourself. But what that approach does is really allows it forces the character in the story so that the business owner becomes the hero of the story, where what we really want and what creates connection is when your customer or client or buyer is the hero of your story, and you step into that story as the guide. So think like Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi. Karate Kid is the hero of the story. And the hero is actually the weakest character of this story, because we're not sure if he's going to learn the karate chop moves that he needs to learn to win, right? So Mr. Miyagi's been there, done that. He knows the path, and he knows how to guide that hero to success, but it's really up to the Karate Kid to kind of do the work. So we, as business owners on our own websites, we really need to embody that, like Mr. Miyagi or Yoda, if you will, for your Star Trek people. We need to embody that role as the guide, and then really invite our customers to be the hero of our story. And when you make that flip in your website or your marketing, or even just the way you talk about your business to someone you're talking to at a cocktail party, the dynamic really changes, because you're speaking with like empathy and authority, and you're embodying the mindset of the hero, and it changes the dynamic.
What do you?
So that's one big thing. Like, I mean, it's a big
Oh,
thing,
I
but
mean, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. Is the
not hard to
website
fix.
about the company, about the person, or is it about the user? I mean, that right there is huge. Who's it about?
Who's it about? And really, like, two things around that is really, what do they want? And, how you can help them, and what problems are they experiencing? So when you can do this one thing, like, I'm sure you have experienced this before, where someone's talking about, their problem, or you go to a website and they're talking about, like, have you faced this problem? Are you behind on your budgeting or bookkeeping? Are you, whatever the problem is, right? They're naming that problem. And automatically, when someone can name the problem that you're experiencing, you think, oh, they're the one that they can fix it. Automatically. Like, it's a weird thing in our brain. We think when you can name our problem accurately, then you must be the right one to fix it. So I always start my websites, like, really simply. They start with, okay, what do you want? So it might be like, if I was working with an accountant, we'll just go with that theme. It would be like, bookkeeping made simple, bookkeeping done for you so you can focus on what you love. So that's really, in a simple way, I'm saying, I'll do your bookkeeping, and then you're going to benefit from that by getting to focus on what you love. So if you kind of pack in multiple, like, problems and benefits, and then right after that is where we really hone in on the problem. So it would be like, if bookkeeping were my issue and I didn't have a bookkeeper, it would be like, your accounting's unorganized, your receipts are all over the floor, you're still trying to catch up on last year's taxes. Like, what are these problems? So you list out like 3 to 5, and then automatically what it's doing is really letting the viewer, your potential customer, feel like they're understood, and that they're not alone, and that somebody really knows their problem, and that person can help them solve it.
Oh my gosh. Why do you think so you said this is one of the issues that you see, that a lot of websites, a lot of small businesses don't do well. They talk about themselves, or they make them the hero of their story. What do you think it is in us as people where we naturally sort of default to that?
Well, that's a really good question. I think number one is, we really are the heroes of our own stories in our lives. So we just we come at it from this perspective, and this is not a bad thing. Like, we are living our own hero's journey just by being on this planet, So we like to talk about ourselves because we know ourselves. I mean, this is not a character fault. Like, we are all relatively self-centered, and this is in our wiring, and this is why we have survived so well, over many, many, many years, because we are really kind of self-centered. It gets a bad rap, and it has a negative connotation to it, but it's really not. It's just the way we're wired as humans. So it just takes a little bit of knowledge, really, to kind of go, oh, let me kind of consider what life is like in their shoes and what problems they're going through. And I think, especially like with service-based business owners, they, well, as business owners in general, we all have big hearts, and we all really want to help. So again, it's not to, like, no knock on any business owner that's the hero of their own story. It's just because we don't know the structure of story, and we're all just doing our best, right? Like, it's pretty intimidating to build a website or design a website and have someone say, okay, what do you want to put on this page? It's like, of course you're going to talk about your great grandfather who founded the company and whatever else. But it just doesn't include your customer in a way that really puts you in a position of of trust and authority. And so when you step into that guide role, by just doing a few little things, it totally shifts the dynamic.
That's fascinating, because I'm as you're talking, I'm thinking of so many aspects of my life that I could apply that to, right? Not just with websites, not just with branding, but, oh, what can I do for someone? I meet someone at a cocktail party. What would that mean to them if they feel heard? If I talk a little bit less about me and I seem more interested genuinely about them, right? Like, what could I unlock in people? I don't know.
Really,
This psychology, it gets in
yeah.
my head, where do I go? And I just, me, Emily, where can I go? And really, like, to get to those deeper layers, those which I think are precious of a person. What can I do to bring that out?
Well, and that's huge, and totally would change the way anybody would experience a social event. But when it comes to like your business and your work, which is often a topic at any social event, right? What do you do? And da da da. So, I could say, I'm a bookkeeper. And then all of a sudden, like, the conversation kind of falls flat. Or I could say, at the end of the year when your taxes are due and you've got receipts like piled all over the floor and you can't remember what you spent on this donation, but and you're just frazzled and you have a million things to do that you'd rather be doing. Well, I help business owners get organized with their bookkeeping so they can really focus on the work that they love. I have a 3-step plan. First I organize your receipts and your bookkeeping, then I streamline and automate what can be automated, and then I plan ahead for the next year so that doesn't happen again. So it totally changes the way. And then
Totally. I mean,
like,
you're making some fake story, and I'm drawn into your fake story. I can't even help it. I was drawn into your fake story.
Right. And then that's the beginning of the story because you're pulled in and you want to know more. And maybe you need help with that, or maybe you have a friend that needs help with that. So I've just opened up, potential opportunities to grow my business in a really authentic, but like connected way. Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. Yeah.
So, okay. I want to talk about your ebook, Why We Click.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So talk about that.
Okay, so a lot of my clients come to me and they're just like, fix my website, make it better. I hate it. I'm embarrassed to send people to my website. I dread making a change because I can't get into the back end. And so this is really a guide called Why We Click, and it tells you the 9 steps of psychology behind a website that actually works and helps you convert new clients. So it gives you really the why behind what you're going to do. I tell you exactly what to do, but then you understand the psychology behind it. So then you can really apply that not only to the website, but every aspect of your business.
And I'm assuming you take the same storytelling approach. Hey, that time at the end of the year when your receipts are all over the floor and, just kind of, draw that in. Where can we find that ebook?
That ebook is at reddoordesigns.com. That's Red Door with 2 D's, Red Door Designs with an S at the end.com. And when you go to the website, you'll see right at the top it says free resources, and you go to that page, and Why We Click is right there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining me on the show today and talking a little bit about the psychology of what you do and branding and all that. You are absolutely amazing. Like she said, visit our website at reddoordesigns.com.
Is your website turning away potential clients? I can help you turn that around. Book a money-making messaging call with me today, and we'll transform your story into your most powerful sales tool. That's all for this episode of From Click to Client. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. I'm Chris Jones, and I'll see you next time.